Hey folks, welcome back to Positive Mischief. Today we have Charles Barron from A&E, Senior Writer Producer. Say hi, Charles.
Hello.
There you go. He cleaned up his beard just for this interview.
I trimmed this beard today because I didn't want the viewers to think you were interviewing just some random vagrant.
They get to decide that after we're done talking.
Yeah, I'm a specific vagrant. Thank you very much.
That's right. So as we've stated in a few other episodes on this show, we like to talk to creatives about how they think on the fly. We've got our little question random thing, so we'll get to that in a little bit too. But this is really about a creative mojo. See how these folks think, how they process quickly and creatively. So we've got Charles here. We'll let Charles tell us a little bit about his day job in the form of how would you explain your job to a child? You have kids, I have a kid. So someone who's 6, 7, 8 years old, how would you explain your job to them?
Wow. It's funny because I don't even think my wife knows what I do, and we work at the same company. So it's so funny. I talk to so many people about what I do for a living, and I've been doing this for a decade and a half. And you just kind of end up always going towards the words that they know. Like, commercials, because you use the word promo, and they're like, oh, aren't those just automatically made by just pressing the promo button?
The promo button, it's the easy button.
The easy button. I would tell my kids, and I've told them before, like, do you know that Bubble Guppy show you love? Or do you know that, Dora the Explorer show? Well, we make those things that make you want to watch that show in little nuggets, 30-second nuggets. I think that's the way I would subscribe. And I probably tell that to adults as well. Because
right.
Unless you're working in marketing and specifically on-air marketing, no one knows what you do.
What's funny, because everybody sees it. Everyone sees
it
every day, like multiple times within an hour of watching TV. And they're like, promo marketing? Yeah. And yeah, that's not a button. You just don't like hit it and it goes. So
yeah, I wish I could use that button a couple times a week.
Could have done that a couple of times just today. Thank you very much.
Today. Yeah.
So we've got this idea, Positive Mischief, the name of the show. And at Hugo, we like to make that part of how we do things. We want to be mischievous. We want to be fun and playful. We want to come at it from a certain positive attitude, giving something back to the people that work for us, the people that work with us, that they can sink their teeth into in a positive manner. Not this, not crazy mischief, not mean mischief. So with that as the backbone of this, what does that look like for you to be mischievous? And then what does that look like to be sort of positively mischievous in work?
Yeah, I would say, and you and I have talked a bunch of times, even in meetings that happen every day, try to keep it light, keep it fun. I love joking around with my coworkers and my managers and everything like that. So keeping that positivity and playfulness with the people you work for and work with is, I think, a huge part of, that creative culture and that teamwork that you have to do every day. And to expand on that, like, I grew up reading tons of comic books. That's kind of like how I got into the whole storytelling world. Learned to read with comic books. My dad was a huge comic book collector, and that extended into animation. I just loved watching cartoons and stand-up comedy. So from a young age, I think I've just instilled that playfulness in me. And for better or worse, I still have that. Learning to use those traits over Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and, because you're not in person as much anymore.
Yeah.
The timing's different, and, you're reading people differently. And it's just, I think it's just such a huge component of what we do.
Do you think not being in person has hurt the creative process?
I think a little bit. I can speak for my team and our network that we've pretty much moved to a fully out of house, a fully like remote work environment. And I think in the beginning, it was a challenge because you're not in that room with your team of writers. I mean, I would love to think that I can do everything myself. And oh my God, all these ideas just came out of my head, and it's just all me. I can just work I can be siloed and just, but no, that's definitely not the case. You need to bounce ideas off, and it's just different over email and over Zoom. So I love having that in-person energy goes a very long way. I think we definitely kind of found a very good meeting place in between that. We have, for better or worse, we have lots of meetings and lots of Zoom. And so we have that cadence now of
that
creative back and forth and sharing links and isn't this funny and this funny? I'm looking to do this. What do you think of this? So it's adaptation as we've all adapted in the last 2 years.
Yeah. I feel like there's that 30-second meeting in the hallway that doesn't happen, where things get accomplished in those moments. And you're just not going to, and they happen impromptu. It's like, oh, you know what? I have this just came to my head, and I wonder how I don't know that we've been able to replace that or replicate that in the Zoom culture.
No. Every day, and I did this even at the other networks I used to work for as well. Every day I would go get coffee with my team, and whoever wanted to come, not just on my team, but this was teammates from scheduling and from digital and print and PR. And we would, like you said, meet in the hallway, and do you want to get coffee later? And during those walks, like, the positive mischief would be happening there, and someone would have a great idea. And later on he would say, oh yeah, I spoke to such and such about the show coming out, and I have a great launch promo idea for that. Yeah. And that has not been replicated.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Well, I think you talked about the mischief of that. Like, there's something that happens among the humans in general, but especially creatives, where there's a goofiness, there's a playfulness, there's the, kind of picking on each other, sort of ribbing that happens. That's really hard to do via Zoom. It's a natural thing. So when you do things like go get coffee, when you do things like go downstairs and get a donut, those things, they come up. You see something on the subway, you see something on the street corner, and it just like leads to that automatic banter that makes things really great. And it's at that moment that it doesn't matter what you guys do believe in or don't believe in together. It's just humans interacting in a playful way. And I think that's a hard one. I think you said it, like, we've had a hard time replicating that. So
yeah. And that's something that starts at a young age too. Like, you have a kid and I have 2 kids, and, I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I see that positive mischief that happens with them. I'm watching that dynamic between my son and his friends and ribbing each other. And, a few years ago, one would probably end up crying, but now it's like you're kind of building that shell of kind of sarcasm and giving it back and forth and building on that. And that's how a lot of deep friendships are made. Yeah. Like, with the ribbing and the one-uppance, like, oh, you said this, I said this. And I think it's so important to start that at a young age as well. And that carries on into, if you end up being creative, it really helps you. Yeah.
Speaking of the sarcasm and joking and stuff, that's a perfect little segue into our jester here. So I ask everybody that comes on if they've been to New Orleans, and if they know what this is. So have you, and do you?
I've been to New Orleans once for work. A bunch of years ago. I do not know what that is.
So this holds a beverage, and it's in New Orleans fashion. It is has one goal, so we'll leave it at that. But it's our perfect little icon for random questions for our guests. So in here, we've got a bunch of different questions. I know what they are because I helped to write them. But I don't know what I'm pulling out. So we're going to start here with one of these for you.
All right.
See what they say. Who's an artist in a completely different field who totally blows your mind?
Wow. There's a lot. There's a lot. Freddie Mercury was one of my favorite, is one of my favorite singers. And I think it's Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, and Chris Cornell. May they all rest in peace. They were a huge influence on me. I will still put their music on while I exercise and while I'm writing scripts. Just that energy that they had in their voices and their creativity, and being able to now show my kids these amazing artists, these singers. It's I would say those three in a three-way tie.
Is there something iconic that when you think of any of those three, first thing that comes to mind about each one would be what?
For Freddie Mercury, Bohemian Rhapsody, which I was introduced to in the first movie of Wayne's World, as probably a lot of
a lot of us were, yeah.
A lot of us were around the same age. Just the scope of that piece of music, and having my daughter, who's 12, who plays the drums, be completely obsessed with that song now. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. And then David Bowie, I would say, maybe not a lot of people would say this, but the movie he starred in, Labyrinth, with all those, again, a movie that we watch now that I watched when I was their age. It's just being able to tie in the different generations in love with this creative. And that movie was like him and his most David Bowie-est with the giant codpiece and the hair, and then there's Muppets in it. It's like there's evil Muppets. It's
crazy.
It is crazy. And then Chris Cornell, now I think, we grew up with Soundgarden, but I think now he's done a lot of great covers towards the end of his career and end of his life. He covered Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. Great rendition of that. He covered Sinead O'Connor and Prince's Nothing Compares to You. And try to listen to his version without tearing up. It's just it's impossible. So yeah, those are the three that come to mind.
I love that.